Two bullets struck the SUV. One passed within inches of a car seat. Inside that car seat was a 2-year-old girl named Bexley. Her father was already on the ground outside. She could not unbuckle herself. She could not open the door. She sat there alone, in the dark, on a road in Jacksonville Beach, until strangers walking by noticed the hazard lights still flashing. The man on the ground was Jared Bridegan, 33 years old, a Microsoft executive, a father of 4. He had been shot 4 times at close range. He died on Sanctuary Boulevard that night, next to his own open driver's side door. And when investigators began pulling apart the events that led to that moment, they discovered something far more disturbing than a random killing. Someone who knew exactly where Jared would be and exactly when had been planning this for years. Jared Bridegan lived in St. Johns County, Florida with his second wife, Kirsten, and their young daughter. He shared custody of 9-year-old twins with his ex-wife, Shauna Gardner, following their 2015 divorce. On the evening of February 16, 2022, Jared had taken the twins to dinner, a routine visit. Afterward, he dropped them at Gardner's Jacksonville Beach home and headed back towards St. Augustine with Bexley strapped in the back seat. He took his normal route through the Sanctuary neighborhood, a quiet residential area he had driven dozens of times before. On a dark stretch of Sanctuary Boulevard, he encountered a large tire lying flat in the middle of the road. He did what anyone would do. He put the SUV in park, turned on his hazard lights, and stepped outside to move it. He was shot immediately. Jacksonville Beach Police Chief Gene Smith later stood before cameras and described it without hesitation as a planned and targeted ambush and murder. That tire had not fallen off a passing vehicle. It had been placed there deliberately, at that location, at that hour, because someone knew Jared Bridegan would stop. Investigators began building their case from the ground up. The first thread they pulled was the custody dispute. Following the 2015 divorce, Gardner and Bridegan had spent 7 years locked in one of the most hostile, heavily litigated custody battles in county history. Constant court filings, constant motions, constant conflict over their twins. Then detectives found the text messages. They were timestamped 2015. 7 years before the murder, Gardner had sent messages to a friend discussing wanting Bridegan dead. She used coded language, phrases like funeral potatoes and doing magic, which investigators say masked conversations about hiring someone to kill him. She had also written about wanting to slit his throat. These were not isolated vents of frustration. According to detectives, they reflected a years-long deliberate preoccupation with eliminating her ex-husband permanently. In January 2023, police made their first arrest. Henry Tenon, a 62-year-old handyman, was taken into custody. Tenon rented a home from Gardner's new husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana, a connection investigators say was not coincidental. Tenon eventually pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and agreed to testify against both Gardner and Fernandez in exchange for a sentencing range beginning at 15 years. His account gave prosecutors their chain of conspiracy. Fernandez, investigators alleged, had recruited Tenon directly through that landlord-tenant relationship, keeping Gardner at a distance. Bank records showed Fernandez had written checks to Tenon around the time of the murder. Cell tower data from burner phones placed both men near Sanctuary Boulevard on multiple occasions before the shooting. Strong evidence, prosecutors argued, that the location had been scouted in advance. Gardner was arrested later and extradited to Florida. Both she and Fernandez pleaded not guilty. Then came the development that reshaped the entire trial. On February 17, 2026, 4 years and 1 day after the murder, Tenon walked into a Duval County courtroom and asked to withdraw his guilty plea. He stated plainly that he would not testify against Gardner or Fernandez. Judge London Kite granted the motion. Prosecutors did not object because Tenon had already confessed, and they believed the remaining evidence was strong enough to stand alone. Weeks later, the judge ruled that while some of Tenon's pre-plea statements would be blocked, his original sworn statement, made as part of the plea agreement, could still be used at trial. Gardner's defense team, led by Jose Baez, the attorney known nationally for defending Casey Anthony, fought aggressively to suppress wiretap evidence gathered from Gardner's cell phone and Apple Watch. The judge denied that motion. Trials for both defendants are now scheduled to begin August 10, 2026. Fernandez goes first. Gardner follows. The state has withdrawn its pursuit of the death penalty, meaning both face life in prison without parole if convicted. Bexley Bridegan is 6 years old now. She was 2 when she sat alone in that darkened SUV on Sanctuary Boulevard, waiting for someone to find her, while her father lay dead on the road outside.